What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's UAP Tuesday, and I know I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but every time I say, I don't know if there's going to be anything to cover next week, the galaxy and the universe goes, you know what? Hey, here's a ton of stuff to cover. There's so much to cover this week. It's crazy. The amount of stuff that went down this week is out of control. So we talked about it last week. Dr. Shawn Kirkpatrick, who is head of the government that's supposed to, the UFO program. He's the head of it. And we said, it looks like there's a lot of rumors saying he's going to step down. Well, that is factual. He's now leaving. He's gone, leaving in the end of the month. But a lot of people say that was, you saw the writing on the wall forever. But the stuff that also came with that was that he had also said in this interview with Politico, he said a couple of things. And from somebody who was going, I don't understand what's going on with David Grusch. I don't know about this alien bodies. We have no proof of it. He's still singing that tune. However, he's also saying, he sounds a little bit more like there's either alien life out there or there's a foreign entity out there as well that might be causing this big ruckus that we're all talking about. Is that the truth? I don't know. Speaking of truth, he says Grusch was invited to come talk to them. Well, there's some facts that says that's not true at all. Speaking of Grusch, Grusch had an interview. Grusch talked a lot and has been talking a lot. And it seems as if stuff is coming. It really does feel like stuff is coming soon. This is it more and more and more. So Mark Riley not here today, but I got lucky. The great Attack Peter is here. He was available, and he is in it just like we are, guys. We're going to start talking, and we'll talk to him about what he thinks about this. And yeah, it just seems like everything's lining up. We'll get into it. But before we do, if you're brand new to the channel, you've never been here before, hit that subscribe button. We are trying to get to 200,000 subscribers faster than we got to 100. So we hope that if you're brand new, you'll do exactly that. Make sure you comment, like. Let's get into the conversation. Without any further ado, it's myself and it's Attack Peter. Let's do it. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show, UAP Tuesday. It's myself and my special guest today, the very talented artist himself. Attack Peter is here, ladies and gentlemen. What's up, Pete? How you doing?
What's up, buddy? You know, it's so funny. The headlines you were referring to, that Politico one specifically, I won't get into the details. I'm sure you want to get into it, but generally speaking, like if you just read the tagline, I'm not going to even ask the question that they ask Dr. Shawn Kirkpatrick, but here's the answer. That's a great question. I love that question. That answer is like the perfect answer for you don't want to answer that question in that second. You need 3 seconds to come up with a bullshit answer.
Like he doesn't get that question everywhere he goes.
I love that question. Wow. Oh,
yeah. And the question, of course, that Peter's bringing up is the fact is they're aliens. That's what anybody in that position, that's the Thanksgiving question that guy gets. You know, when he goes home for family, of course they do. And that dude, and I was watching Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp's show, and they were talking about him, and they really nailed it. For this is just Project Blue Book all over again. What is the AARO? What they are? They're a front. They're exactly, they've been put into place to basically say no, don't look here, look over there. But the problem is today, more people are, when they tell them to look over there, they're looking straight down the freaking road.
Dude, everything is coming together in a strange way. Someone was talking about, Art Bell's, did you ever listen to Art Bell growing up, by the way?
No, but
man,
Riley brought him up last week and everybody kept commenting on it. Yeah.
So much fun. But he had this quote where he talks about the quickening where, you hit a certain point and then the updates, the news, the advancements start to happen faster and faster and faster. But the weird thing is, and I think everything, like you said, we're primed for it. I think the pandemic caused people to think a lot more about things. I think all the stuff with the election caused people to think more about things. And we were all sitting and watching the news so much that you started to get good at picking out when someone was being earnest and when someone was trying to blow smoke. And I think that's a huge advancement. Like collectively as a species, we're all like, that doesn't sound right, And I think on top of that, the fact that this topic has been pushed into the pop culture mainstream, it's different because there are so many trusted voices like on YouTube where you've had years and years and years to build up a relationship with your audience. People know you're authentic. People know you're not just looking for views and clicks, you know? And so that many voices talking coherently and soundly about a topic, everyone just feels comfortable discussing it and asking real questions. And then when you answer that real question with, I love that question, everyone knows you're full of crap.
You're full of it. But you know, it's funny you say that too, Peter, is that when you look at where we are today, as opposed to even if you look back, like if the internet was around during that Roswell thing, I think it's a very different conversation during that time, because the media went with what the military told them to do during that time. It was a balloon. That's it. It's a balloon. Okay, it's a balloon. Everybody said, okay, well, that's what it says in the newspaper. That's what it says there. And there's nobody else talking about it anywhere. You can't really see it. None of the major outlets that we talked about, with whether it's CNN, MSNBC, Fox, like they're not covering this like in depth in the way that the internet is, right? The internet is, you can always find news stories and people who are covering this. And it's one of those, even the interview that David Grusch gives, he's like, I know that the government are watching videos like this because that's where people are getting the news from. And when they put videos out on this topic, they're seeing the notice. Like for me, I look for the UFO news on the internet because that's where I'm going to find it. That's where I'm going to get all this stuff from, because that's who's covering it. Because even look at the way that, and it was very interesting. I think, where was it? I don't remember which outlet I was watching, but they were talking about, like, look at like RFK, who is running as an independent right now. And he is probably he has the highest amount of interest in an independent candidate since Ross Perot in like 1992. Yet the major news outlets are not covering him right now, right? The major news, they're barely even covering him. It's not different from what's going on here when they say, don't cover that. Don't cover that. We don't want you to cover that. It's the same thing here, but you can't get away from the internet. And that's why I think it would be so different if the internet was around back in like the 40s and the 50s.
Not only that, I mean, you know, it's such a great point. The first, I think if you Google first Roswell article, it's the Roswell Daily Record that was, I believe, like July 5th or 6th, 1947, right? July 9th. And it says RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. Then they had to like go and backtrack and then put up the thing, oh, weather balloon. But yeah, like imagine that was on the internet. Yeah. And there was the pictures or whatever, and all the discussion in the 24-hour news cycle just for that one article for them to then flip it.
They couldn't have backtracked it as fast. They couldn't have backtracked it as fast. And that because especially there's just they would have had people out there with their phones and everything at that point. So it was a very, very different situation. And it's becoming harder and harder for them to say, look over there. And it just shows you people who have been following this and are part of the community as they're coming, whether it's people who've been in the community for a long time, people newer like myself, and people realize how big forever in history David Grusch is going to be. And one of the things too is that he really blew the lid off of this thing, because if you look, since that kind of cockamamie nonsense of the reporter trying to go after him for his PTSD,
a legit reporter too, dude, Ken Klippenstein, it was crazy.
And I didn't like the way Ken handled himself during that at all. No. Even it's like, okay, you want to report that, you want to do what you're going to do. And you have, and I thought he was much better on when he was on, I think it was The Hill or whatever he was on.
He rolled a dice, dude. He rolled a dice.
But the way that he handled himself on Twitter was embarrassing. Like he was taunting the UFO community. He was taunting people. And that's like, come on, man, are you a reporter? Like what are you? And it's like when he was on The Hill and they were kind of going after him, he carried himself like a reporter, but on Twitter he was a disaster. But that's a whole other conversation. Yeah. But since that thing of them trying to discredit him from using his PTSD of all things against him, which was gross, they don't have anything on him. Otherwise they would have used it. And they're doing this thing. And reason I bring that up is because one of the things that Kirpatrick said in this interview was, oh, well, we've reached out to Grusch, and we reached out to Grusch many, many times to come in since. And he also said something along the lines that he hadn't been he hadn't seen Grusch in something like 5 years. And then when I was watching both Corbell and Knapp's podcast, they're like, well, wait a minute. We know we got confirmation that they were in this private kind of panel together a year ago together. So that was a lie. The other side of it was that Grusch says that he was never invited to go talk to the AARO. And then Knapp followed up by like, look, you don't want to believe Grusch? Then let's hear from his attorney, who is very, very highly esteemed. And let's see what they say, because as of right now, they're saying Grusch was never invited. So something stinks.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like it's almost like, to our earlier point, the fact that we're all paying attention and able to comment on this and broadcast these notions, widely, is such a luxury, because there's too many people who are good at detecting BS. And that's like a basic exercise of like, we invited you. You didn't get my text. I sent you a text. Oh, I didn't hit send. It's like that kind of thing. And it's just, everything is a play. You're absolutely right. It's a model they do for any kind of outsider, whether it's a political candidate or it's an influencer, or it's anybody who doesn't toe the line. First, there's like that quote that's like, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win, type of thing.
Yeah.
The problem is they ignored him, and that was probably the best strategy at the time. And then they try to find something to diminish him.
Yeah.
And if they had it, they would never have dropped it. And everyone would have disassociated from him.
Right.
If there was something legit, because everyone's
you look at what they did, the same thing like with Bob Lazar. When Bob Lazar came out, like there's still a back and forth from a lot of people who don't necessarily know what to make of Bob Lazar, and that's because they either did a really good job, or Bob Lazar did a really good job of either convincing you that he might be a little out there, or maybe he's telling the truth. It's like that, because again, at the time when that came out, and again, bringing up George Knapp, who first interviewed him and bringing him to the public, like that's what they essentially tried to do. Well, this guy, he never even worked there. And then it found that he did work there. He did go to college, where they said he didn't go to college. They were erasing his records and stuff.
But they never post a retraction. There never is like a wide, like, oh, whoops. It's just so crazy to me. That there is enough people who are invested in things being one way, despite, our collective understanding of the world and how it works around us,
But it really is more, as the more and more I do this show, it really just is about awareness. And it's as more people start to go, wait, why does everyone keep talking about UAPs? Why do people keep talking about UFOs? Is this like potentially real? Like what? Like that's still, people are still doing the wait, what? Because once more reporting comes out, and once more things come out that people go, well, I guess we can't ignore this one. We got to report on this story. Like even the big networks, like even if it was buried towards the back, they still put the hearing on the shows, because it was that big of a story that they had to, and therefore spreading it to go and, oh, I saw there's a woman that I follow that does like tech stuff, and she was talking about it, and at the end she kind of like disregarded it, and I was like, I feel like that's because you don't have all of the information of really what's going on right now. And as that starts to come out and the more stuff drops, like you look at and as you said it before, it's like this connected thread when you hear it from not just like one person, two people, but like when it comes to like 15, 20, 30 people who are all saying now that there's major news that's going to be huge coming in 2024, whether it is Corbell, James Fox, Burchett, I think Burchett said, maybe Burchett didn't say it, but Grusch, there are people, it was Lou Elizondo definitely said it for sure. Russ Colhart said it as well. Like too, it's like these things keep dropping where and it's one of the reasons probably that Kirpatrick's like, all right, I think I'm going to go now.
Yes. I thought that was a huge one. And it's funny too, because look, let's just play it out. This whole thing is BS and it's like a scam. I don't know what the point is. Let's say to sell books and get people watching your videos, right? Dude, if they put a date on something and they say this next year, a lot of stuff's going to happen, there's a lot of people who are going to have a lot of angry, disenfranchised viewers and listeners. There's one thing, that you sent me. You sent me a bunch of articles. It's actually the last thing that you sent me, I believe, or like one of the last things. on the Tamron Hall show
Oh yeah.
that I
Yeah,
thought
yeah,
stood
yeah.
up. That was, I don't want to jump the gun if you're going to get there, but
Sure.
it is an example of how much everything has changed.
Yeah.
Because that is a mainstream show to a mainstream audience of
In the
casual
daytime. In the
viewers,
daytime.
and it was treated respectfully, like just another
Mhm.
topic.
Mhm.
And dude, I've noticed that, because like I said, I've been paying attention to this for such a long time. The tone has changed so much on everything, but to the point where it's always like this boiling frogs approach. There's never like an announcement like, hey guys, as an entertainment company, we've
Right.
decided that this needs to be taken seriously. So going forward, we're gonna no, there's never like that. It's like it's all. Of course, we're always talking. We love
Right.
talking about this. It's interesting. It's normal. It's normal to talk about. And then the last thing the guy says, we might be surprised about how they look, and we might be grossed out. What the fuck?
I know. Look, I'm telling you, man, there's gonna be
It's like a District 9 Neil Blomkamp segment is what that show felt like.
it absolutely did. And the thing is that, and Grusch says it in the interview as well, it's that when the president of the United States comes out and says, we're doing a press conference here, and basically gives, I've been informed that this, and we are not alone. And that's when the world just goes, whoop, the record scratch. Grusch said it as much, like it's got to come from the president. Now, that the other thing that Grusch did say inside of that interview that we've heard beforehand, to the new interview that I will link in the description of this video as well. But he also talked about how we've talked about this many times, Peter, you and I, just through text, about that everyone's always like, well, the government couldn't keep these secrets. Well, first of all, if they wanted to, they could, but that's not who's apparently even been funding this for all these years, is these private companies that have been doing this, and through the 40s and all that. And that's exactly what Grusch has confirmed, and who's been funding the reverse engineering programs and all of that. Like, that stuff is fascinating. But I do want to get to this article that we're going to start with, because we have so much, like I said, there's just so much to talk about. This is from Politico, which again is a really good step that Politico is covering this. And you got, are aliens real? We asked the Pentagon's outgoing UFO chief. And as Peter said, the quote is, that's a great question. I love that question. It's like he's trying to, it's like demeaning it, or not kind of, but like, as I think Peter said it great, it's bullshit. And Shawn Kirkpatrick is not done talking about UFOs. For nearly 18 months, he's been the head of the Pentagon's fledgling office, tasked with investigating what the government calls unidentified anomalous phenomenon, which military pilots have increasingly reportedly seen in the skies. Kirkpatrick set up an entire system for collecting data, waded through hundreds of reported UFO sightings, and batted down whistleblower claims that the government covered up a program to reverse engineer alien craft. And don't forget the Chinese spy balloon episode. In an interview with Politico magazine, he talked to us about why he's stepping down in December and how he sought to institutionalize the solution for getting at the heart of these anomalies. The Pentagon has a real interest in deciphering the sharp rise in unidentified craft spotted by military pilots. If they're not aliens, they could be foreign adversaries posing incredibly new threats. Patrick was perhaps the perfect person to lead what's formerly known as the Defense Department's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which was established in July of 2022. A physicist who spent decades working in the defense intelligence arena, he's open to the possibility that we're not alone in the universe, having co-authored a hotly debated paper about alien motherships. Now, I'm jumping right into that before I even finish this, because people talk about Avi Loeb and they're like, that guy again. He said he found a spaceship here. He said he found minerals here from another planet. He's convinced that this guy wrote a paper with the head of the with the head of the department of the company, the freaking government's running UFO program. And it's like, wait a minute. And then they asked him in this interview, Peter, if he regretted it. And then he said, and he kind of threw Avi Loeb under the bus. He's like, well, that was leaked. And they said, well, it wasn't leaked. They said it in an interview, like, it wasn't leaked. Avi Loeb posted it. He's like, oh, he leaked it. And it's like, he's throwing him under the bus that he leaked it. It's like, I don't think that he did. I think that he put it out there and said, okay, well, this is what we're working on here. And Kirkpatrick and him worked on it. Kirkpatrick knows way more than he's leading on to if he's writing papers like that.
Dude, you could just fill in the gaps. Like, this thing plays out like a story when you're reading it,
Yeah.
And it's like, you can just see. I forget his name now. It's on the tip of my tongue, but the man who was in charge from with Project Blue Book, who came in as a skeptic and then left
Oh,
as a
right. Yeah,
but it's like the same thing all over again. Like this guy's probably seen enough stuff now
right.
to go, okay, I need to get out of this. Like this is going to be a firing range, or they're going to put me out to dry. You know what I mean? Like he's going to
Yeah.
be hung out there, right? And so let me just get out before it's too late. But he's not denying anything in any of those answers. You notice that? Like it's almost like
He kind of does once, and he kind of says that they still don't have like kind of proof that there's reverse engineering. And you're thinking of Alan Hynek, by the way.
Alan Hynek. That's it.
But
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. But it's always like it's a broad question, and then he brings, and people do this when they're trying to be evasive, and they'll bring all the energy and the attention to one point that's slightly related and make it all about that, so that we're not really thinking about the larger question anymore. You know, it's a debate tactic. If you're watching the debates, you'll see like this is the thing that they do. And it's like we all sit. I used to grow up watching these. I mean, I grew up watching these things going, I'm stupid because I don't understand why they just did that. And it clearly looks like adults are talking, but it's not. It's intentionally like meant to misdirect.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's why I said this is pretty much like, you know, as I was listening to the Weaponized podcast, and they're 100% right that this is this is Project Blue Book all over again. That's all this is. And you can't depend. Now they've heard names. The two of those guys have heard names of who they think is going to replace Kirkpatrick. That's going to be a big question, right? That's going to be, is it just going to be someone else who just kind of fits what they want to do? Or do they finally get somebody in there that you're like, wait a minute, now this could actually change some stuff up? Because look at someone like Grusch. Grusch was put in a position where he thought he was brought in there to do a job and bring truth to the situation. And that's exactly what he tried to do. And then he was shut down. And then he was like, well, I'm not getting, every time I try to do something, I'm getting pushed back and I'm not able to do anything. I gotta be a whistleblower. That's the only way I'm gonna get this done here. And that's what essentially seems like is gonna happen to most people who are running this shit show, if you will.
Dude, I sympathize for that guy so much. Do you think you'd have the balls to do that? I think about that all the time, like to upend everything, because you can't even imagine what they would send after you if they wanted to, you know, and you're always gonna be paranoid, like, you know what I mean? It's insane. I feel tremendously for that guy, but it couldn't be a more perfect person because he seems to be resilient enough to deal with all this kind of stuff, at least outwardly. And he's mellow about it. He's super, you know, respectable, and they couldn't find anything on him. We're lucky.
Very much so. And what I think that he's done is that as they asked him on this interview that he was on, they asked him about how many other whistleblowers, and there's just like they're coming out of the woodwork now. But what a lot of them, we talked about it last week on the show, a lot of them didn't want to come forward and talk to Kirkpatrick from the way that he behaved after Grusch did the testimony. And this guy posts a LinkedIn post basically crapping on him. That's not what you do. If it's like what you do in a situation like that, even if if you're not trying to discredit him, which he clearly was, you don't do that. What you do is you go, well, these are certain claims that I have not heard just yet, but I would love to talk to Mr. Grusch, and my department is working on it. That's the only statement you make. That's the only statement you make. But he puts this ridiculous, almost like he was drunk on Boone's Farm or something, and he posted on LinkedIn, and for what? It was so unprofessional and so crazy that he did that. And that was another attempt to try to discredit, because I guess the third attempt is saying, well, we invited him to come in and he's not coming in. And it's like, and then Grusch's like, they never did, because there should be emails that prove that, right? Show us the email. Where's the email that you guys sent to him to invite him? Where's that? Show us that.
You know, you to put it into context, that LinkedIn thing was so revealing to me. And I think if people are looking for evidence that something's afoot, you're never going to find it in direct comments and quotes and photographs. You're going to find it in how people behave as they're starting to feel the pressure, you know? And I can't ever think of a scenario where, you know, I don't know, you have some super unreasonable person, maybe like a former fan of the show, and now you shifted that statue behind you 2 inches, and now they're never going to watch you again. You would never spend time like really considering that person. Now, if someone brought up, and I've seen you do it, like constructive criticism or a legit concern in the comments, you answer them and you talk about it, and it's like a reasonable thing. Like, you'd have to think that at the highest levels of the government and people dealing with sensitive stuff like this, whether it's, you know, NHI or just UAP or just foreign adversaries, whatever it is, the idea that you would go and do something like high school level, like
on LinkedIn.
That's what I'm trying to say. It's it's like he freaked out. It's like in the moment he was like,
yeah, I can't,
you know what I mean? A little tantrum.
It adds to what Grusch said, where people were really pissed off seeing his face on TV, because this is a guy that it's just very hard for them to stop this particular wave of what he's been doing. It's just very hard. And it also encourages other people now to go, well, Grusch has been protected and they've tried to knock him down a couple times, but it's not working. So I would be encouraged if I was somebody who had the kind of information, because there are people that clearly have way more information, people who told Grusch the stuff that they've seen. Those are the ones that we really want to hear from at the hearing. The question is, what are the hearings going to look like? Is there going to be another hearing now? Is it going to be approved? Are these everything as they start to get closer and closer and closer, whether it's the new head of the department, right? Whether it is the committee that has been rumored to be approved. There's another thing that says that Grusch was now approved to get into that skiff that he was not approved at that one point. So what else comes there? Will there be another hearing that is approved? And if so, who's gonna speak on that one? Will there be other whistleblowers? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that could potentially happen over the course of the next, 6 months to a year.
Dude, there's a bunch of stuff scheduled for this month.
Is there? What is it?
Dude, now I'm gonna feel like an idiot, but yeah, I'll pull it up.
Why don't you look? I'll finish reading this article and you take a look.
Go ahead.
All right, here we go. All right, so Kirpatrick continued on here and he talked about this was the actual interview itself, and they said they edited a little bit, but the interviewer said, "You've been on the job less than 18 months. Why are you leaving now?" And Kirpatrick says, "When I took the job, I promised going in that I would do a year and then we would reevaluate. I decided to stay on until towards the end of this year because there's a couple of things I need to finish. One of those things that he's finishing is volume 1 of the historical review, which really encompasses all the interviews that have come in to talk to us. And then laying that out as, here's what's been able to prove true, here's what is not true, as a very thorough and objective research product. The legislative requirement for the historical report is not due until June of next year. I decided, because of the desire for more transparency faster, we're doing a volume 1, volume 2, and that'll be delivered next year. Volume 1 covers everything up to about a month ago. Volume 2 is going to cover everything new since we've turned on the reporting button on the website, which is another big thing. They finally got the website up. It looks ridiculous, but you can report stuff there, and it's more for the but they can't report certain classified things. And he goes on to say, I deferred my retirement because I was asked to come do this. I set out those goals. It's been 18 months. I want to move on. I've accomplished everything I was going to do, which is, again, what is this guy talking about? This is the height of it. You've accomplished everything you're going to do. If you were really the head of this thing in a legitimate way where you were trying to find real answers, you don't bail now.
Exactly.
You don't bail now.
You would stay, if nothing else, for the potential limelight you're about to be thrust into. Like, if you were just a selfish person, you didn't care about it. You're about to be part of history. Like,
whether you prove it right or wrong, if you both sides, if you can say, no, I have definitive evidence that this is all BS, and you're the guy that definitively proves it. You haven't done everything. You guys got scared out of your mind, or you're getting so much his reputation. Like, people, I didn't know who Shawn Kirkpatrick was until this. And now I think he's a quack. I think he's a guy I think he's full of it. I think he's a liar. I think he's been doing intimidation. I think he's no different than those people, than the government people in the 1940s. And I think more people feel the same way about him. And that's why he's going, I've had enough of this. I'm gone.
So here is what's supposedly happening this month.
Yeah.
Actually a big week, supposedly. So Shawn Kirkpatrick will be answering audience questions on Wednesday, November 15th, which is tomorrow, or Wednesday this week.
That's this Wednesday. Yeah. Where is that?
At the Hayden Center, the MV Hayden Center
Okay.
I'm not sure what that is, but UAP, The Search for Clarity. It's a live stream that will be broadcast on YouTube, youtube.com/@Hayden Center. Then,
well, wait a minute. If anybody goes to that who watches this show and you're able to ask a question, please ask the question, where is the factual evidence that you or your team invited David Grusch to meet with you? Where is that factual evidence? And if so, will we see that?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Then the second one is the ICIG SCIF meeting with members of Congress. That's Thursday, November 16th.
Is that the one Grusch is going to be in?
I think that's the one, dude.
That's November 16th?
Yeah, Thursday.
Good Lord. A lot of stuff's coming out this week.
Wait, there's more.
All right.
Then on the Soul Foundation Conference at Stanford University, November 17th and 18th, featuring Carl Nell and Lou Elizondo speaking among many others.
Wow.
It's invite only, and videos of the talks will be released at a later date.
Wow.
But dude, that's like a lot.
Big.
It's a big week.
It's a big week. And it's like there is more of this group that is pushing forward. And it's not just a few people here now. It's starting to, the army's getting bigger. And one of those people who was really in the front lines, we haven't really heard much about since last week, is James Fox, right? Is there any updates? What's going on with that guy?
No,
nothing, right? I did shoot him a text. I didn't get anything back, but
I wonder what a lot of these people are going through behind the scenes, because you have to think that it's like you're trying to do death of 1,000 paper cuts and just disenfranchise people little by little and make it really costly to go out and do your thing.
I wonder, but I also wonder if it was that whole Logan Paul thing that was going on, with the footage and stuff too. I wonder.
I'm not caught up on that. Oh, yes. Where he was like paid for the footage or something.
Well, so the short form of it is, we covered a little bit last week, but basically, when James Fox was on Joe Rogan's show, he talked about the most, I guess, compelling UFO footage he's ever seen. And it's these guys, I think it's in Vegas or whatever it is, and they're driving, and it goes right above them, and they get like clear as day, the most clear footage he says he's ever seen.
Right.
And he begged the guy to either sell it to him or release it, and the guy wouldn't do it. And he said he wouldn't do it no matter what. And he threatened James or something in the lungs, like if you even bring it up again. I can't remember what it was.
Right.
And I forget who this guy exactly was. People in the comments will know. So then he told Logan Paul about it. Logan Paul went out there and drove out there and offered the guy, I don't know if we offered him like $10,000. He offered him a lot of money. He offered him money to basically maybe 100,000. I can't remember, but he offered him money to buy it. And the guy's like, no, I'm not buying it. And I don't know where the guy went, but Logan Paul recorded the footage with his phone and got it on his phone. He talked about it on his podcast that he has the footage. And he said, and apparently the rumor is that Fox and Logan Paul were working together and they were going to release the footage. And that this guy got wind of it and is like bringing hell to try to like ruin James Fox's career. That is a complete. There is no factual confirmation to that. That's just kind of what speculation has been. But I could see that being a thing if that was
especially if you can't talk about it. Like he's known for talking about everything, and suddenly he clammed up. It might be real legal stuff.
It's probably legal stuff. Yeah, it's probably real legal stuff. So that's the question. So who knows? But yeah, so that's the stuff that you just read is big. But I want to keep talking about the Grusch stuff. I want to keep talking about the stuff, the Kirpatrick stuff and all that. Before I do want to tell you guys, as we each and every week, the whole reason that we're able to continue doing this show is that we have our wonderful sponsors, and we have a great one that I use all the time, and that's Green Chef. And I'll tell you about Green Chef right now. I love talking about Green Chef. You guys know I do. And I'm going to talk about them even more. It's Thanksgiving time, baby. You got to eat clean all holiday long with 80 plus weekly options that change every week, featuring delicious, nutritionist approved recipes. You can choose from their 8-meal preference with options for every lifestyle. Quick and easy, protein packed, calorie smart, Mediterranean, keto, delicious discoveries, gluten-free, and plant-based. Eating clean shouldn't be boring, especially during the holiday season. Feel your best and satisfy your cravings with adventurous eats made nutritious. Discover exciting new flavors with recipes that feature certified organic fruits and vegetables, sustainably sourced seafood, and unique farm-fresh ingredients like tart cherries, truffle zest, and rainbow carrots. Eat clean the delicious way this November with flavor-packed recipes like buttery lemon garlic shrimp, harissa apricot chicken, maple burnet squash risotto, and Sriracha Tamari beef bowls. I love Green Chef. You guys know it. I've been eating it forever. And now I was so excited because I'm so excited in general that they're with us, but I was so excited to be selfishly because of the holiday season. And I cannot wait to get the stuff for Thanksgiving. Can't wait. It's so delicious. Makes me feel good. And I don't know. For some reason, I feel like a chef. I'm definitely not. And I definitely feel like one when I'm working with Green Chef. For Green Chef's best deal of the year, you're going to get $250 off, but you got to use that code THING250 at greenchef.com/thing250. Did you hear what I just said? $250 off with the code THING250 at greenchef.com/thing250. Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well. Guys, I'm so excited to tell you about the Patreon. I know a lot of new people have been signing up. I'm so excited that you have been. We have just done a complete rehaul of the Patreon, and there's a lot of new goals. We have a full year. If we can get to 1,000, hopefully before that, but if we can get to 1,000 patrons, Winston's going to go to Universal, and he's going to go to Halloween Horror Nights, and he doesn't like those things. Me, I don't like the Red Sox. So as we approach, I think it's like 700 patrons, I have to watch the Red Sox beat the Yankees with JTE, for God's sakes, from the 2004 series. Very painful for me. We have a lot of other things. The Flirt and Flout's going to jump out of a plane at 10,000 patrons. But the other side is we have a lot of extra content over there. We got stuff going on, whether it's exclusive episodes a day before they come out to the YouTube channel. We have exclusive that's just exclusive. There's an extra show that Riley and I do over there. There's going to be some live Q&As that we do over there. So there's all of that. That's a lot of fun. The direct connectivity to all of you guys has been very, very exciting. One of the things that I think has really been going over well are these one-on-one sessions that I've been doing with people. There's only around 12 spots per month, and they're going pretty fast. Since we switched over from the website, I still think there's like 3 or 4 left, but it's essentially just me for about a half an hour talking to people, and we go over a lot of different things. We talk movies, we talk about life. It's really fun. And there's another one. There's another one that we have, and that's at the $35 tier, 15-minute sessions, and it could be with anybody. You don't know who you're going to get. Could be Brett, could be Steph, could be Kate, could be Mike. Who knows? So you can join over at patreon.com/thebigthingshow. Sign up today. Love to get more of you guys over there. We're building this thing out, and we love to have this kind of just community that we're building, and I'm so excited to have you all on board. So thanks. Patreon.com/thebigthingshow. All right, thank you to our friends over at Green Chef. I have been eating so healthy because of Green Chef, and I feel like I'm a chef. I'm not, but I feel like it, and that's what's important. And I eat good quesadillas now because of the food that they have. It's really good. All right, so back to it. Let's finish this up with Kirpatrick. So there's some more stuff that he says, and he talks about, it's been a roller coaster for the AARO. Has any of the controversy over the whistleblower testimony, the Chinese spy balloon, or the website delay contributed to your decision to leave? To which he says, no. They're just expected challenges. Those are expected challenges? Those are expected challenges? Wow.
Regular challenges.
Those are just expected. Yeah, we expect.
What do you expect?
We expect whistleblowers to come out all the time, websites that we were about to do that we didn't even want to launch in the first place. We expected all that. The balloon is a very interesting case of the contingency in the U.S. government trying to understand the difference between knowing an anomalous thing, if you will, and an unknown anomalous thing. Our job is harder than, hey, there's a Chinese spy balloon. You know what it is, what it's doing. That's not our job. Our job is to understand the unknown and what it could be. What are the possibilities that threaten us, and how do we get at it? The website controversy really is based in bureaucracy. There's no other easier way to say it. It took so long to get that up and running just because it's so hard to get something through the establishment where everybody has to be able to look at it. I have to stop this. This is driving me crazy. I am not part of the government, and I don't run the government UFO program. I put up a website that was better run than that website. That website looks like it was made in 1993, and you could hire anybody to do a way better website, and you could have launched it. Like, it goes back to what we were just talking about, Peter, where it's like you go and it's like, okay, here's what we need to do, guys. We are under one of the biggest spotlights we've ever been on this topic we need to get this site out there. We want to make it look really, really good. We want to make it look professional, and we want and put all the effort into it. So when you go there, like, wow, like if you want to be taken seriously, instead it's just like, I don't know, just get what's Jerry doing? Jerry hasn't,
unless you don't want it.
yeah, Jerry hasn't been out of the room in 3 years. He's hammered. Yeah, well, when he sobers up, tell him to make a website. That's it. It's a joke.
Well, that's what they're using the alien time travel tech for. They go back to the 80s to find someone to design a website.
Right. That's what they're right, because it's cheaper. So you have all that, and then they ask him more so about Grusch, and they ask him about the stuff with Avi Loeb, and they ask him all that, and he just kind of maneuvers it and goes through. But he does say that what I do want to get to this, the what everybody's talking about inside of this article. Okay, well, first let me touch on the Grusch stuff. He says David Grusch is a unique instance in that he has refused to come and share any of that information. We still can't get him to come in. I've got 5 different people who've gone to talk to him to get him to come in, and the answers have always been, we're not clear to. It would jeopardize his whistleblower protection. To why can't we just get the information he shared from the IG? It's every excuse that I've heard why not to come in. And that's been a challenge, because now here we are about to put up volume 1 of the historical review, which I believe captures most of all the people that he's spoken with. But I can't say that 100% because I can't hear what he thinks he has. If he has evidence, I need to know what that is. So clearly this guy can't be trusted, because even if Grusch did get reached out, he doesn't want to talk to him. But he says he was never invited in the first place. So believe what you were going to believe there. So let's see. I want to get to this question about, do aliens exist? Okay. So the reporter says, are aliens real? That is a great question. I love that question. Number one, the best thing that could come out of this job is to prove that there are aliens, right? Because if we don't prove that there are aliens, then what we're finding is evidence of other people doing stuff in our backyard, and that's not good. 2, from a scientific perspective, the scientific community will agree that it is statistically invalid to believe that there is not life out in the universe, as vast as the universe is, and the number of galaxies and solar system and planets. That is part of NASA's mission to look for life. The probability, however, that there is life that is intelligent and it's found Earth, and that it has come to Earth and it has repeatedly crashed in the United States, is not very probable. Why not? Well, he doesn't give an example as far as why there. So part of what we're trying to do, and part of what I will continue to do until I'm done, is raise the level of the conversation. If you are talking with NASA or the European Space Agency and you're talking about looking for life in the universe, it is very objective, very scientifically sound discussion and discourse. As that discussion gets closer to the solar system, somewhere around Mars, it turns into science fiction. And then as you even get closer to Earth and you cross into Earth's atmosphere, it becomes conspiracy theory. And then he goes on for a little bit more. But what he doesn't do, Peter, is talk about what Grusch and many other people now are talking about, is the potential of the fact that these things are bending time and space, and they're not coming from galaxies away. That's what Grusch says. This is what a lot of different physicists have been talking about, and the people that are other people who, I think Stephen Greer, whatever you want to believe or not, but these are what people are saying, that it's but he doesn't even mention it. Whether you believe it or not is another conversation.
But he's skipping ahead.
He skips ahead of it.
No, we're skipping it because he's skipping. Dude, I really think, if you asked me, gun to my head, what do you think's going on, big picture? I really think that it's gotten to the point where whoever's in charge of this information realizes that there's nothing left but to come out with something, whether it's the whole story, a little piece of it, a version, whatever. Something has to happen in an official capacity that makes the people searching for answers satiated, and it makes the people who try to protect their property, I guess at this point, if you can have property that's from another dimension,
right,
happy, right? So it seems like there's a slow, calculated rollout. Again, I strongly encourage anybody who thinks that you just can't keep secrets like this. Well, number one, they aren't. There are people leaking stuff all the time. But number two, if you consider only official channels, it's not something that our government hasn't done in the past, and it's not something that corporations don't do. For as many leaks as there are, let's say, remember they kept Grogu a secret, guys.
Yeah, I know it's true, right?
It's possible.
Yeah,
Luke was just like, dude, in the middle of the pandemic where everyone's on the internet 24/7, they kept that secret. Right. And so it is possible. I mean, so it's just that there's a rollout happening. I really think so. I really do. I think that's why I think that Tamron Hall video
Yeah.
It blew my mind
We're
because
going to listen
that,
to that.
huh?
We're going to listen to that. We're going to listen to that in a second.
Yeah.
I want to get through the Grusch stuff. And then after we get through the Grusch stuff, I do, because I agree with you that
well,
stuff.
it's just the point is, again, to talk what he's doing in this particular incident. It feels like he's like saying, wait, we're not there yet. We'll get there. But right now we're doing this little bit of the show, which is it's probably either aliens or foreign adversaries. Like the fact that we're there is crazy, but it's if you do a slow rollout, it doesn't feel crazy.
Hey, Kirpatrick. Yep. Remember, shut your fucking ass.
That's him in his earpiece like this, like one second.
Okay, sure.
Okay, yeah,
right.
That's right. Say that. Answer if aliens are real. Just say it's a great question. Say you love that question.
I love that question. Actually, it's a great question. It's so lame, dude. You know what it is? It's almost like it's just lame. Like it's not even the way I expect the cover up to happen anymore. Like I want to see like badass Men in Black type or like senators saying this guy's probably a Russian, you know, something like that. Like it's just so lame now.
So it's because you can smell it now, and because this is the stuff from Grusch's interview that he just did. And this is kind of a breakdown. Adair Mafunde did a breakdown of on Twitter, did a breakdown of the Grusch interview, which says, in this transcript, David Grusch, a whistleblower, makes several claims about UFO, UAP related topics, and he confirms that he and other whistleblowers have come forward with information about the U.S. government's possession of the UFO, UAP craft. He suggests that the number of crafts is in the double digits, but does not provide exact figures. He acknowledges the private corporations, including federally funded research and development centers, have been involved in reverse engineering programs related to these craft. Grusch mentions that some whistleblowers have expressed concerns about murders and disappearances related to maintaining UFO UAP secrecy. He also mentions personal instances of physical intimidation. He confirms he's been informed about crashes and the retrieval of both craft and biological material related to the UFO UAP incidents. He suggests that the number of retrieved bodies is also in the double digits. Grusch discusses the case of the Mussolini UFO crash in Italy, mentioning that he received briefings on U.S. involvement and recovery efforts. He also refers to the potential existence of documents related to this event in the Vatican's secret archives. He mentions that other countries, such as China, also have their own UAP task forces and are engaged in similar activities to understand and potentially reverse engineer UFO UAP technologies. It's important to note that these are claims made by Grusch and should be evaluated based on the available evidence and corroborating testimonies. So did you watch the interview with Grusch?
The one with the is it Italian gentleman?
Yeah.
Yes. I watched not the whole thing, but I watched parts of it.
That's pretty, I mean, they did a great job in summarizing. Those are the major points that really hit. And this is why I'm saying that it feels like, and maybe it's me, but tell me if you feel the same way. When Grusch he did the News Nation interview, he revealed some stuff. You went, whoa, what? And then he went in front of Congress, and everybody, mainstream or people who just looking into it for the first time, a casual person goes, yeah, but he said I heard it from a guy, and they said they found bodies, and that's it. Since then, he's done more interviews, and I feel like every time he does an interview, he does like oh yeah, take this. And now you can have this. And he like each time I feel like he's getting clearance to say just a little bit more. You can say just a little bit more this time. And he did, like, he went a little bit more in depth with the bodies thing. I remember he did an interview when they asked him, he even asked him on Congress, like, well, as I said in my News Nation interview, I did this. And he was very kind of just quiet about it. Yeah. He was a little bit more detailed. Am I
No, I said the same thing. And it almost feels like he's never going to be able to, I mean, without some kind of permission to, really come out with stuff. So it seems like in every separate interview, he says an obscure thing that's kind of hazy in a different group, in a different part of the picture. And then if you're someone like us who's watching a little bit of everything, you're like, I get it. I got enough context now, Yeah. And I think that's probably the case, I wonder if what's really like sad is that like maybe if that really is what it takes to keep him from getting on the radar or in trouble with whoever, then we're really dumb people.
I mean, it's bizarre and how that's playing out. And I do, like you said, I'm so curious when you read that schedule out. I'm so curious if that SCIF, like that's the one, like this Kirpatrick stuff is just, it's like a Comic-Con panel hearing the same stuff that you've heard. He's not going to give you anything. He's not going to tell you and if you believe that he's the Project Blue Book guy, he's just going to try to, as people are going there and asking him questions, he's going to steer them in different directions. So that's not really, to me, anything of note that's happening. The skiff on Wednesday, as you said, that to me is like, well, what is that? Who is that? Like, that's because I know that Luna had posted something that it was like kind of, she was like frustrated because at one point she had announced that they were able to do something, and then like 5 minutes later she wrote, and now I'm hearing they were not doing this. So I wonder, because the other thing that we talked about was that when they put the new speaker, remember that, and I said this too, and I always preface this by saying I am fully aware that it's not the only reason,
right?
But you know that Burchett was one of the 8 Republicans or whatever it was that voted McCarthy out. McCarthy was also said no to the private committee, has apparently not too into the UAP investigations and all that. So I bet you that didn't help with Burchett. And it seems like, and now that they've got, with the new speaker, he's like, hey, listen, buddy, because Burchett's a way higher ranking official than the new speaker of the House was a nobody, and just kind of came into power. He's like, look, I'm going to ask you a favor, and I want you to do it for me. What did he say? Because you said you watched the full show with Corbell and Knapp. He had mentioned something about the speaker. Do you remember what he said in particular?
No, I don't have it in the top of mind. But the overall takeaway I have, it was just that feeling where, they brought everybody in and to tell him a little bit of nothing, and that he was frustrated, but that his big takeaway was what he considered a win is that new people who were not normally in these meetings, his colleagues, right, got to see how much nothing is being shared with them. And that's what I noticed since that meeting. Well, I've noticed when people, other congressmen talking about it, is like, they're like, they can't believe like that they're being jerked around like this. And so it's almost like this is the next important step that has to happen. And Burchett, even though he was going in for info, realizes that this is a win that he got, which is more people realizing we're all being jerked around.
That's right. And so I can't wait to see what happens.
He says he fist bumped all these people as they left the room, because they left clearly like, get the fuck out of here. And he's like, I told you.
You said this before when we were talking about Kirkpatrick, right? Yeah. Like the BS of like, oh yeah, I feel like I did everything I had to do. It's like, wait a minute, the glory that you can get. Let's also make no mistake about it. Burchett is, as much, do I believe that he legit wants answers and that he is passionate about this? Of course I do. Yeah. But do I also think that he wants to be the guy that brings the Red Sox their first championships in 1918, whatever?
He retires tomorrow and he writes books until he dies.
Burchett is the guy who is responsible for. He's the guy who's really leading the charge to prove that we're not alone in the universe. You will remember his name forever. So of course,
none of us knew who he was. And suddenly he's like the guy I think about the most on the Hill. It's like, it's just the way it is, man. And you find you and Riley made a great point on an episode, I guess it was like 2 weeks ago, more or less, where you said, he reminds me of how the government used to work, in the sense that you would partner up with anyone to do good and no one to do evil, right?
Well, so he'll go out there and he'll talk about Moskowitz, and he'll go, my buddy Moskowitz.
Moskowitz.
He doesn't make it. I mean, look, there are other political things that he does that he's very much right wing, and he's very much.
It's important in today's day and age to remind people that you can agree with someone on something and not on everything else, right?
Right, because he doesn't treat the other side like enemies. Now, there are certain times that he does. There's no doubt about it. But when he's referring to this, he realizes that you've got to be on the same side, and that's what he's doing. That is making sense. And I think that's why you look at it, and that's why, I mean, because like he said, AOC was in that meeting when behind the closed doors. He was in there. Luna was in there. Moskowitz was in there. Like Schumer, I think, was in there. So like that's the stuff. Like what's coming next, and when it like I mentioned earlier, it's going to get very real when Biden comes out and says, okay, look, I've been briefed on this, and this is a serious thing now that needs to come to the public. Yeah. that's when people that's when less and less people will go,
Right.
it's like, so
Although I think it's already lessening, man, and that's the exciting thing. You notice, right? Like there's a different. I mean, I know that we're closer to it and we're paying attention more than the average person, and the average person doesn't even think about this anymore. Like they thought about that one day there was a congressional hearing. That's it.
That was it. Yeah, it is and it isn't. It's like there are more and more people who feel like they have a place to talk about it. There's more and more people that feel like they can come to this show or they can go to other shows and they can pay, and they feel like they can talk and they can have the conversation with it. And there are more and more people who want to know answers. There's no doubt about it. And they don't feel like they're kind of alone, if you will.
Yeah.
But there still is that thing because people just don't do research on things. And like I mentioned earlier, to where they're going, oh, wait, what? Oh, yeah, there's aliens out there, right? You're not going to, it's one of those things. And I can't remember who said it. I think it might have been Lou Elizondo. I can't remember, but it was somebody along the lines going, the type of information that's going to come out in the next year is where it's where the general public just can't ignore it anymore. That's the day. That's the day when, as I told my wife, I was like, you'll say you're sorry eventually. Because my wife is like, like last night I was watching the interview of I was watching the Weaponized podcast and I was watching it on my TV and she's like, I'm not watching this. And
I know Gabby's the same way.
Yeah. And then I go, okay, well, I guess I'll go in the bedroom. She's like, you're gonna watch this over hanging out with me in the living room right now? And I was like, I mean, I'm not gonna get myself in trouble here. So I was like, I'll watch it later.
Exactly.
But she wants nothing to do with it. I was like, don't you think this is fascinating? She's like, no, she doesn't, because she don't believe it.
But you know what, dude? I have to be honest with you. There's also a part of me that, and I'm being dead honest here. Like, I almost wish we could just stay in this moment of it,
right,
forever, where it's like peak. Hear me out.
Yeah,
peak speculation, like lots of interesting stuff. We can play internet sleuth about it, but there's no as of yet, real world consequences to it. Because suddenly, because it's a crazy thing if you sit and just think about it, do the thought. I have a tough time doing the thought exercise for more than 2 or 3 minutes, to be honest with you. It's like when you say, how long can you think of your own death? It's a tough thing for people to do. But dude, thinking about that and what it would mean for everything is something that I'm like, I wonder if I want it. I want it, but I wonder if I really want it.
If there's the clear-cut answers, if there really is a clear-cut answer, like a lot of different things that I don't necessarily know. Like I said, we've talked about a billion different theories, and whatever the theories are, and I'm not saying that any of us we're talking believes this or doesn't believe it.
Yeah.
But let's say hypothetically, going into science fiction, we find out that we were put here by these things. We find out that these things have been traveling here for years upon years upon years. We find out that these things are actually from 4,000 or 5,000 years in the future and are the evolution of human beings. We find this. I'm just saying, at all these different science fiction theories, and you found out about it. It changes your worldview and it changes the way that you look at things forever. If there was a clear-cut, distinctive, this is fact, this is factual,
right.
You know what I mean? If it comes to where people can't say, oh no, that's not real. If everybody from the biggest skeptic goes, okay, well, maybe I was wrong, this is real. I mean, because there's just things that the world fights over now, and that would seem insignificant if
that's my hope.
Yeah,
that's my real hope, is that it's a unifying thing. I just hope, I can't help but think about that movie Prometheus. That's what I always think about. That we were some accidental flea flick, and now they're like, what's this annoying thing we left over here? And then they have to go and deal with it every time that we're up to something. I mean, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to get into it, but it's just, I can't help but think about the fact that there's also a major global conflict happening, and who knows what's to come of that, but there's a lot of saber rattling and a lot of crazy stuff. So it's just is this something that's being revved up so that we don't pay attention to that? Is it something that's being revved up because it's a response to that? It's just,
there's a lot of theories and there's a lot of things I watched. And the same guy that did the interview with Grusch gave that second interview to that YouTube channel. And I've been watching, I stumbled upon, I can't remember who the guy was that he had on, but they were
the young dudes.
Yeah, the young dudes, but he had on this guy. I don't know if he was
Where like Grusch is in like a polo shirt, like hanging out on some deck or
that
something.
one, yeah. But then that same channel just did release something like 2 days ago, and the title of the video is essentially are these aliens essentially humans from years into the future? And there's a physicist who believes it, and it's like the reason why they keep getting involved in nuclear events, and the reason why they've had all these reports on nuclear events is because they don't want us to blow themselves up, because then we blow them
can't
up.
exist.
Right. So which again depends on what you believe in.
Dude.
I don't believe in that, because I believe that time doesn't work like that. I believe that, time.
Suddenly you have beliefs on time now?
I've always had belief on time. Like for me, time travel for me, I've always like.
Go ahead.
When I was listening to those, I used to pay attention to the parallel universe stuff and all that stuff like that. The Back to the Future time travel. Back to the Future, one of the best movies of all. The time travel aspect is ridiculous. It makes no sense at all, because the way that time works and the infinity on time, if you believe what most physicists think, is that if I go back in time and I decide, okay, I'm gonna, what I'm gonna do? When Peter and I are supposed to meet, I'm gonna make Peter go somewhere else, and he never meets me ever again. So you'd be like, well, then we're not going to be doing the show right now. Well, we still would be in this timeline. We still would be, but in an alternate timeline, no, we wouldn't.
That's all Loki.
That what's funny about that is that to me, Loki is
it's pretty good.
Is more accurate in time in time depiction. Yeah, which is crazy, because and they played with whoever's writing the time travel stuff in Marvel actually does pay attention to time in the way that it works. They did the same thing in Endgame, but it's all the conversation.
Yeah, it's the robot from She-Hulk.
Different rabbit hole. So all that stuff that Grusch said, the Mussolini stuff was pretty fascinating, because he said that they asked him on the show, they're like, well, how do you think that they got the thing over here? And he's like, I didn't get that information, but if I was to guess from the size of it, they didn't have a plane that could have transferred it, so it was probably by boat. He didn't have any information that was factual on that, but that's what he guessed. So yeah, these things have been around for forever, man.
I can't wait to hear about the one where they built a building on top of it. That has to be like a
right.
freaking floating city, dude. What are we doing?
But and that's the thing. Where'd you find that thing? Where's that thing crash?
It's like The Thing. Remember at the end of The Thing when the craft takes off or whatever it is?
Yeah. It's crazy. All right, so
show that video.
I'm going to show that clip. Here's the clip.
I'll just say before you show it, it's like focus on how mundane it is, because that's what's crazy about it.
Welcome back. Today we're meeting the newsmakers, the people behind some of these major headlines about UFOs, about sightings that cannot be explained lately. And our next guest is a renowned astrophysicist. His name is Adam Frank. Not only believes that there is life outside of our planet, but in his headline-making new book, it's called The Little Book of Aliens. Oh boy. He says that we're on the verge of proving it once and for all. Please welcome to the TAM Fam, Adam Frank. Thank you for joining. Okay. So, Adam, I'm happy you're here because you are the scientist. You are the man with this brain and the knowledge. I am the person with insomnia who stays up and has visualized the alien is very different than our life. So I'm happy you're here because it'll wrangle in, again, some of the skepticism of people who might say, what? There are so many things you could be doing with this hour. This is nonsense. But you recently wrote a piece for The Atlantic, very credible publication, and you said, in the thousands of years that people have been arguing about whether life exists elsewhere in the universe, one thing has been constant. No one really has a clue, but not anymore. And just this week, the European Space Agency released the first images from its powerful Euclid telescope, which launched in space in July. This technology advances us to where you believe we are, which is identifying other life, not aliens, but other life.
Right.
How do you explain it from a science perspective of where we are?
Well, after 30 years of being an astrophysicist and studying everything from stars to planets, why I wrote this book is I wanted people to understand how close we are scientifically using telescopes like Euclid or the James Webb Space Telescope, how close we are to discovering evidence that will tell us about life, not in our alien life, not in our skies, but in planets orbiting stars billions of miles, trillions of miles away. And it's extraordinary that we're at this moment now where we can do this. We have the technology to see alien life on alien worlds.
You have been a professor at the University of Rochester studying astrophysics for 3 decades. In 2019, NASA recruited you to search for signs of advanced civilization on other planets. You do know in the movies, it starts with you guys messing up, right? You do know.
That's right.
The scientist goes in search
And
and
then
we all pay. We all pay. But in seriousness, you say that the human species is poised at the edge of its greatest and most important journey. What journey is that?
This is something that's amazing. Every star you see in the sky when you go out at night has a family of planets around it. We didn't even know that 20 years ago. And if you count up 5 of them, one of them is in the right place for life to form. So what we have now is the ability to use telescopes like the James Webb or some of the new ones that are coming out to see into their atmospheres. And we can tell, we call it a techno or biosignature. In the light from the star, there's an imprint. It's like a fingerprint that tells us, oh, there's oxygen in that atmosphere. And so, for example, oxygen would not be in Earth's atmosphere if it wasn't for life.
Right.
So if we find oxygen in the atmosphere of an alien world, it tells us there's forests and microbes and all kinds of, life, there.
Life there. In the book, chapter 7 of the book is called "What Will We Find When We Find Aliens?" And in the book, you basically say, was this the first chapter you opened when you picked up the book? I'm not judging. I'm just saying. Because, I mean, that to me would be the logical question. I'm guilty of that. I am guilty of going to the alien part of the story and wondering what this thing would look like.
Right.
That's the impression left because we watch so many sci-fi films.
That's what it is. That's what it is. I grew up on those sci-fi films. I love those sci-fi films. But the thing that if you apply, and this is what I wanted to show in the book, if you try and apply aspects,
me.
Right, with the pointy ears.
Well, first of all, where do you think I got my haircut from? I was like, geez.
Looks better on you.
Right, thank you. That's where I got my haircut.
So if you apply what we understand about evolution, which is quite a bit, what you realize is that, sure, there are some things that we might expect to be same. On Earth, for example, wings have evolved like 3 different times from totally different species. But so that's what we call convergence. So yeah, you'll expect wings, you'll expect legs. Legs make sense if you're trying to, move around and get food. And so the important thing to understand is we're the only humans or humanoids in the universe. You're just not going to get the same sequence of accidents that will lead to, like, 2 shoulders, arms, legs. And so we should expect to be surprised and maybe a little grossed out when we find.
Oh gosh. Well, Adam, thank you so much. Adam's book, The Little Book of Aliens.
So yeah,
dude,
it's I know it's
that last line, dude.
Yeah,
is not how you end daytime TV.
No, it's true. It's just like more of those conversations. She set it up top too, and good on her for reaching out and having that conversation and knowing, because you're going to get a lot of people like, wait, what? I mean, even George Knapp got it back in the day, where you can't put that guy on. No one's going to take us seriously. Now it's starting to turn into more like, well, wait a minute, this physicist has, and because they approached it in a very different way. They didn't approach it in the way that like our show does or other ones do. They approached it in a way that they said, like, look, this is a guy who was recruited by NASA to do some stuff, and he's got this technology that scientifically it makes sense. So what he's saying is that there's a telescope out there that can let us peek, and it's a very powerful thing, and it all makes sense scientifically that there would be, if there's oxygen, there could be other life form, and that's what he's saying. She didn't bring him on to say, well, the UAPs, they're zipping around, they're doing this, and we think that someone found them, and they weren't getting into that. They were just saying. But it goes back to your earlier point from the beginning of the show. All of this is just coincidental? I don't think so. It all plays into, at least what I think, what's coming. I do think there's going to be a major thing within the next year.
It's just a weird thing to just randomly throw into your show, and it's not something like, it. I know it. Anybody watching knows that is a crazy thing that we just watched because of how normal it is. It feels like when you're watching dystopian movies and TV, like when you're watching Total Recall and the programming in the background of it's wild, dude. And the fact that he at the end says, and we might be surprised and we might be grossed out. It's like he's literally getting the idea into the average stay-at-home person's head that it's something that you're gonna have to come to terms with. That like whatever it is whatever it is. Like maybe 10 years from now, Kristian, we'll be watching whatever the late night with Seth Meyers is, and the guy, instead of the guy bringing on the wild animals from the zoo, is like, well, this is a fun guy from Omicron Persei I8, and he just likes to nibble on chips. That's where we're gonna be, dude.
I think at that point I'm not going to be watching. If it comes down, I always think about this too. There's two questions. One, would life change that much for us in the fact of like, would we still want to even watch TV shows? Me, I would just have questions. I would want.
You do the same show.
I would just have questions. I would if there was ever an opportunity to where we like, we want you, if you want questions answered, you can have them answered. And it's like, I would have, I want to know more about time and space. I want to know about how the hell we got here. I want to know how long potentially they were here. All these different things. I would love to answer. I wouldn't be able to stop. I would turn into that guy from that saw the UFO and that was in that Houston case where he saw it and
watches it.
But he couldn't. Once he saw it, that was it. It became his whole entire thing. Like for me, Tuesdays, I talk about it. I have a good conversation with you or Riley, and then I kind of browse throughout the week and I read the articles and I do a couple search, but then I let Tuesday really be my day.
Yeah.
If it turns out when they make an announcement, if there's like a big announcement, I think I'll be into it even more than I am now, because it's like,
of course, dude. But you're
well,
not going to be satisfied covering the new Flash movie, like when you could have
what I'm
Glorp on and talking about their cable and their movies and their entertainment.
You
Dude,
go different. You go a different route with it. I don't know if you're ever going to get an interview with
you'll have it
with the A-list alien.
They're going to send you a box and it's a brain plug. You put it on your head and then you just go somewhere for an hour while they just emanate stuff.
I would just want to, I'm telling you, man, it's like those questions of are we alone and what life is like as far as the meaning of life and all those types of things. But again, deeper conversation. We hit the stuff that we wanted to hit today, and there's still probably a ton of other things, but we will have stuff next week to talk about, as it looks like, this skiff. We didn't even talk about, we didn't even talk about it real quick. I guess we should talk about it, is the Mexico hearings.
Oh yeah.
So they had another one. And they brought those bodies out again. And this time they brought people out and they said that they made it very clear to not say that they were confirming that it was alien life form, but they were saying they can confirm it was not of human origin, these things. And it's thousands of years old. And it was like these bodies, mummified bodies with three fingers. So that was an interest. And, it looked like Jaime Musad, I think is his name, who was like, he was out there again and probably feels validated. But does this validate it for you?
Dude, I don't know, man. Like, this is what my gut goes. My gut goes, that's not an alien. And then I have to go to myself like, hey, asshole, you've seen aliens? Because I've never seen them. And that could be a great mummified version of one of them.
There's so little.
But that makes sense too, right? Like everything we hear, because you know what I think about, like when you see like a dried up lizard on the sidewalk. I don't know if you have lizards in California, but they have them like on the sidewalk and they dry up in the sun and then they're like half the size. They're already supposed to be child size from every everything you hear. So if they're desiccated versions, like little raisin versions, are going to be tiny bite-sized ones.
Well, think about human beings. You got you've got freaking
Shaq and David Spade, same species.
100%. And it's so who knows? I don't know. But the hearing, but they did do another hearing. It obviously didn't get the kind of press that you'd hope it would, but I think it all leads to it. The big story inside of that was that it is a big story that they confirmed that these two bodies were indeed not human. They again, emphasizing, they did not say that it was alien. They stayed away from using that word, extraterrestrial. They didn't use it. They just confirmed that it was. And so I thought that but they didn't have a lot of people out there. I feel like George Knapp was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because did you see in the beginning of that show last week? He said he was sick, and he said that he got
he went somewhere. Yes.
He said he went to Mexico. He said he said something about, and so put two and two together. It seemed like he was at the hearing.
Well, that episode airs tomorrow or late tonight. So I'm looking for midnight, I think your time, but I'm looking forward to that because imagine like he's like, hey, my big concern was like, are they going to come back? Someone had accused it of being like a Frankenstein carcass, like that put animal bones together.
Yeah.
If they just disprove that, I'd be interested.
I think that they did disprove that, didn't they?
I don't know. Maybe
Maybe people
I'm
can
ready.
put it in the comments. Either way, Peter,
I
thanks
would
for joining me
adopt
here today, man. I appreciate it. Where can people find your stuff?
Attack Peter anywhere online, Instagram, Facebook, Attack Peter art. But yeah, if you look for Attack Peter, you'll find me. Put me in quotes, or you'll find some strange things about Peter Pan and Hook. So yeah, Attack Peter online.
And for me, you can find me here, obviously, every day. We do pop culture stuff. We do out of the theater reactions. We do a whole lot of things. And on our Patreon, by the way, for the UAP crowd, Mark Riley and I on Patreon are doing one special. We do like a show for the UAP audience. And so what I'm asking people here, whether you're a patron or not a patron, throw some questions into the comments and we will answer them. We kind of show you as we're prepping for the stories that are coming up for the week to come. So throw in your questions and then Riley and I will get to them on Patreon. If you want to come and join us on Patreon, please do it at patreon.com/thebigthing show. So thanks to my good friend, Attack Peter here. Mark Riley will be back next week. Also, thank you guys. Hit that subscribe button, comment, do all that stuff and more. I appreciate you very much. We'll see you on the flip side. For myself and Attack Peter, bye-bye.